documentation. Okay.
May I ask if the screen is already shown?
Yes, yes.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, good afternoon. So for the first part of my report, it's the designing distribution networks and application to online sales. So I'll discuss the key factors to be considered when designing a distribution network, the strengths and weaknesses of various distribution options, and the effect of online sales in different industries. So basically, distribution is defined as the movement of products from the supplier to the customer. So the role of distribution in the supply chain is essential because it directly affects the profitability of the company, and it also affects the cost effectiveness of the supply chain. So what are the factors that should be considered in network design? First, the network performance must be evaluated to verify if the needs of the customers are met. Since the customers are essential part of the supply chain, their standards must be complied to the network design. Next, it is also essential to evaluate the customer service experience. This will determine if the network design is cost efficient or not. Lastly, the revenue of the network shall be aligned with the customer needs as well as the network cost. Profitability can be determined by these factors. So what are the different options for a distribution network? The graph shows that the decrease in the desired response time means there's an increase in the number of facilities required. This means that firms who can tolerate a long response time will only require a few facilities. On the other hand, the next graph illustrates that the relationship of inventory cost and facilities. The greater the number of facilities, the higher the inventory cost. And for the relationship of transportation costs and facilities, the graph shows that the increasing the number of facilities, the transportation cost will decrease. But however, there will be a point where a significant increase in the facilities will cause an increase in the transportation cost. The next graph illustrates that the facility cost decreases as the number of facilities is reduced, and the total logistic cost is defined as the sum of the inventory, transportation, and facility cost. Therefore, as the number of facilities increase, the logistic cost will decrease. But as mentioned a while ago, there's a saturation point where it means that the firm should identify the yield point to minimize the logistic cost. So the design options for distribution network, there are two key decisions to take into consideration. So what will the product be delivered to the customer location, or will the product flow through an intermediate location? There are different options for a distribution network. These are the following: manufacturer, storage with direct shipping, in transit, merge, carrier with delivery. I'll discuss this one by one later. So these are the design options are affected by several customer service components. So what are these components? The cost factors are: number one, response time. It is defined as the amount of time it takes for a customer to receive an order. Number two, product variety. It is the number of different products or options that are offered by the distribution network. Next is product availability. It is the probability that the product is on stock when a customer orders. Next is customer experience. It is defined as the feeling of ease by the customer, or the level of satisfaction based on the customer's experience. Time to market is defined as the time it takes to bring a new product available to the market. Next is order visibility, or the ability of the customers to track their orders. Returnability is the effectiveness of the return policy and the capability of the network to handle such returns. And direct sales to customers, wherein social network capability of the firms to sell its product. Next is flexible pricing. So the network can effectively conduct promotions quickly and inexpensively. Efficient fund transfer, wherein customers will appreciate flexible payment terms such as online transfers or bank transfers. Inventory is the capacity of the firm to make customers wait if inventories are low. And lastly, facilities, the number and location of facilities that will be associated with the operating cost and overall revenue of the firm. So last two, transportation, which is the firm needs to consider the different forms of transportation to reduce cost And lastly, information can be gathered through forecasting and planning to maintain the supply chain infrastructure. So these are the cost factors that will help determine what type of network we should be using or the firm should be using. So as mentioned, these are the different options for a design network. The first design option for a distribution network is the manufacturer storage with direct shipping, or also known as the drop shipping. So in this network, manufacturers directly ship its product to the customers. So what are the pros and cons of this type of network or distribution network? For the response time, it will be longer since there is an increased distance between the manufacturer and the customers. But it is easier to provide a variety of products, and the product is readily available since the product will come directly from the manufacturer. Customer experience might suffer since manufacturers will process bulk orders from different customers, and the manufacturer can easily and directly market its supplies to the customers. Order visibility can be handled by tracking platforms of the manufacturers, and returnability can be expensive due to the distance and availability of return options. The next type of distribution network is the in-transit merge network. So unlike the first one or the drop shipping, this method or this network, the products from the manufacturer will be sent to a common point, or that the in-transit will combine the orders and then they will be received by the customer. An example of this is when a customer wants to build a computer. The CPU can be availed with for example, Dell. Then the monitor will be from a different company, say Sony. So a carrier will pick the products from the different manufacturers and it will be merged into a hub, then making it a single delivery to the customers. So what is the difference in terms of cost factors from the drop shipping? So first, transportation cost will be lower since delivery to the customers will be consolidated. Though there is a higher facility cost due to the centralized hub, and customer experience is expected to be great since products will be received as one. And, next distribution network is storage with carrier delivery. For this option, inventories are done in a centralized distributor's warehouse. The products will be then transported to the location of the customer. An example of this is maybe a Shopee or your Lazada delivery, wherein multiple suppliers will send their product to the central warehouse, then a courier will deliver it to the customers. For this option, transportation cost is lower since the centralized warehouse can handle bulk products as compared with individual suppliers. Order visibility and returnability is more efficient due to the available tracking methods of the centralized distributor. Therefore, customer experience will be better. Next distribution network is the storage with last mile delivery. This refers to the retailers will deliver the product to the customers instead of having a package courier. So unlike before, this will be directly delivered to the customers. So the route of this delivery is relatively close to all the dispatch location. Maybe, one advantage of distribution network is the response time due to the location of the warehouse is near the client's location. It's good for gaining good customer experience. But on the other hand, facilities and handling cost is higher since multiple warehouse is needed. Since a particular warehouse can only serve a group of customers within the same radius of location. Next is manufacturer storage with customer pickup. In this approach, inventory is stored as the manufacturer or distributor warehouse, but customers will place their orders via phone call or through emails or online, and they will pick up their orders into a designated pickup point. So an example of this is it's in 7-Eleven in Japan, wherein customers are allowed to order online and they will be asked to pick up their orders at a designated area. So in this form of distribution network, transportation cost is lower since the customers will personally pick up the items to the designated warehouse. However, the customer experience will be low since there will be unavailable delivery options since they will personally pick up the said items. Returnability is easy since pickup locations can be handled, since pickup locations can handle returns, and inventory is always ensured since customers are well aware if products are available and ready for pickup. So overall, there are already several companies that adapted to this hybrid model. Companies have ventured to e-commerce to sell their product. An example of this is Amazon. So we all know that Amazon sells books. So before, they only provide hard copies of the book, and now they already offer e-books or online books. So as shown in the graph or the figure, that this is the tabulated matrix. So based on this one, we can now identify the impact of online sales on customer service. So these are the impact of online sales on customer service. So the response time for e-business or electronic business, it provides a more real-time and fast-paced acquiring of products. For example, e-books can easily be downloaded. Thus, physical books may no longer be necessary. Next, product variety. E-business finds it easier to offer variety of products, offering the same selection of physical. You can offer the same selection of products without having the same large size of physical stores. It will not require bigger space. Next is product availability. Online business increase the speed of information needed to forecast the demands of the customers. The demands can be easily matched by the suppliers. For the customer experience, e-business fosters customization and convenience. Not unlike in retail stores that has limited number of business hours, e-business will allow customers to place orders beyond the regular business hours. So what we can experience now when we use Shopee or Lazada, we can buy anything online any time of the day without, not unlike for retail stores that there is specific business hours. Next is faster time to market. So e-business has the capability to launch new products online. So you don't need to have the physical product readily available. You just have to provide the product information and it can be easily disseminated online. Next is order visibility. The internet platform makes it very accessible to view the order status. So you can easily check and verify the tracking of your orders. Returnability. So the downside of online orders is there is a risk in return. So unlike in retail stores where you can physically or you can touch or you can see the actual item, unlike there is a higher rate of return to online because you cannot see or you cannot feel the item itself. Next is direct sales to customers. So now we use social media is widely used nowadays. So these platforms are made available to link the suppliers to its customers. Unlike in retail, wherein there is a gap between the customers and suppliers due to there are middlemen and warehouses. So this one is we can now it's easily used nowadays. So there's Instagram, Facebook, and the likes to offer services and products online. Next is flexible pricing. So it is easier to alter price changes in databases that are linked to website. So an example of this is, for example, in airlines. So sometimes we experience or we can have, the airlines can have promos based on unsold seats. This is because the data is readily available online and this can be linked to their websites. Next is efficient fund transfers. Collections are speed up to availability of multiple money transfer options. Now we already have, for here in the Philippines, we have GCash, wherein it's like an online wallet, or there are multiple online bank transfers, which is relatively important to us. Next is inventory. Inventory levels are easily tracked due to the internet platform. This fosters a better supply chain coordination. Next will be the facilities. Warehouses can be reduced since operations may no longer need, or it can lessen the number of physical warehouses and stores. So facilities will be lessened because since it is already online, and the operating cost will be reduced. Transportation, some items available online does not need to be delivered. For example, the books, the e-books, it's versus the actual the hard copies or hardbound books. Another thing
Ay,
is
ma'am, sorry to cut. I think na-drop si sir.
oh,
Yeah.
hanggang saan po?
Ngayon lang.
Ay, ngayon na. Sige po. Thank you, sir.
Test. Hello.
Hi, sir.
Yeah. Yeah, you can continue your presentation. I mean, like somehow I lost the connection, so doesn't matter. You can continue the presentation,
Okay,
Miss Jo.
sir. So for
Yeah.
transportation, some items available online does not need to be delivered. Example for this is the books where we have now online or ebooks. Then another thing is downloadable music. So instead of transporting CDs, we now have downloadable music. There's Spotify
Mhm.
already. Then
Mhm. Mhm.
lastly, the information, improved coordination can be attained since all necessary information are readily available online. Data sharing and
Okay.
forecasting will improve supply chain management. So that's it for the first part of my report. So the second part of the
Yeah.
report will be network design in supply chain.
Uh, that one will be chapter 4, right? The previous one.
Sorry, sir.
The first part will be chapter 4, right?
Yes, sir. This is chapter 5 already, sir.
Okay, now will be chapter 5.
Yes,
Okay.
sir.
I remember this one will have mathematical model, right?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay, good, good. Yeah, continue, Miss Wan.
So for network design, so what are the roles of network design in the supply chain? First is the facility role. This includes the importance of the facility. What are the processes that can be performed in each facility? Location, it is necessary to identify the best location of the facility. Next is to identify the allocated capacity of each facility. For the market supply, what are the types of market that it will be served? What are the needed supplies to support the said facility? Strategic factor, it is vital for a firm to identify its competitive advantage over its rivals. This will impact the cost effectiveness of the network design. Next is technological factors. It needs to be determined to identify significant equipment that may increase productivity and lower the operation cost. Next is macroeconomics. So this one covers the tariff and taxes that may be imposed on a product or equipment use. This may vary depending on the local regulations or international laws. So knowing the exchange rates and other high economic risks such as fluctuations are critical and needs to be considered in the network design. So lastly, political factors are vital since companies will always prefer politically stable areas or countries which are more independent and have legal systems. So next is infrastructure factors. It deals with the availability of the site and labor. It may also include the proximity of transport system available. It's important to analyze the competitors' strategies. This includes a collection of multiple firms. As an example, in malls, retailers are located near one another. This will provide convenience to the customers and may result to increase in sales due to the proximity of the stores. Next is response time. This needs to be properly addressed to ensure customer satisfaction. And lastly, logistics. It must be considered to properly plan the most cost-efficient route and available delivery systems. So this is the framework of the network decision. So it is classified into 4 phases. So phase 1 is the supply chain strategy. Phase 2 is regional facility configuration. Phase 3 is the desirable sites, and last phase is the location choices. So for phase 1, which is the supply chain strategy, it defines the firm's competitive strategy. So managers need to forecast the likely evolution of global competition, and constraints in capital must be defined to identify whether growth can be accomplished by acquiring new facilities. For phase 2, which is the regional facility configuration, in this stage, it is essential to forecast the demand per region or per country. This includes the size of the demand or determining if the customer requirements are homogeneous or variable across the country. Once the demand is identified, it is easier to manage economic scale by reducing significant cost. Facilities may be reduced, holding costs will be decreased. Then risk must also be determined, may it be political, exchange rate, or local tariffs is considered. Also in this stage, it's also needed to determine whether a facility needs to be located near its competitors or not. So there's as mentioned by Sir, there's a mathematical model that can be related when choosing the regional facility configuration. So cost, capacity, and demand shall be considered. So there's a capacitated plant location model. It is a generalization of the transportation model. So the capacitated plant location problem allows greater latitude of decision making in that the points of origin or the plant locations are variable. So this is the mathematical model for that. I'll share my Excel, sir, so to show how this one is computed.
Okay, so you tried it, really
Yes,
tried this one.
I,
Very good, very good.
I'll stop sharing this one, sir.
Okay.
So this one, sir. This is an example can you see, sir, the Excel file?
Yes.
Okay, so
Yes.
so this one, so there's this is the tabulation of the cost per, this one is the cost per the demand region, wherein there is 2 plants that can accommodate for low capacity and high capacity. So each plant capacity has its fixed cost, this one, and for the high capacity, this one. So this is the mathematical model. So it just states for the first part, this one states that the constraint is that the supply, or sorry, the demand should be equal to the supply. It means that to be able to the demand should be equal to the supply. Next one is that the supply shall not exceed the capacity of the demand. Well, the third constraint states that this one is binary, so it has a value of 1 and 0 to be able to, because there will only be a value or cost if the plant is operational. If this one is 0, there should be no operating cost. So these are the decision variables and constraints. So the constraints will be the excess capacity. So as mentioned a while ago, the demand should be equal to the supply. And if there is an unmet demand, this will be computed here. So to compute for the unmet demand, So it's just the it's just this one, the demand of that particular area subtracted by the sum of the total total supply for this one. So this one is, so the sum of this one. So that that's the computation to compute for this unmet demand. So I'll just drag this one for all the places. Next one is for the next constraint is the excess capacity. To compute for this one, it's just we'll be considering two costs. This for the low capacity and the high capacity. So as mentioned before, this constraint should involve this variable, since it will only have cost if this value is 1, if it is operational. So the formula for this one is just the capacity multiplied by if the value of the plant, since it's just 1 or 0, so it will have a 0 value if the plant is closed. This is for the low capacity, then you will add it to the value for the high capacity. So this one multiplied by for this one. Then this will be subtracted from the summation of all the demand from the supply region. So this from North America. So I'll just drag this one. So it's just have the same formula for everything. So once the constraints is already identified, we now have to identify the objective function. So the objective function is just the summation of the fixed cost, which is plus the transportation cost. So considering that, the objective function will be the sum product of this it's the sum product of the fixed cost and the fixed cost for the low capacity. I'm sorry, I'll repeat that. Sum product of the fixed cost for the low capacity multiplied by this one for if it's operational or not. So this is the fixed cost. Then same with the cost for the fixed capacity. Sorry, for the high capacity. So sum product of this one for the high capacity and this one. This is considered as the fixed cost. Then lastly is the transportation cost of the decision variables, which is the sum product of the demand transportation cost for the whole demand multiplied by the decision variables for the whole supply region. So that would be our objective function. So to solve for this one, so I'll be using Excel solver. So this would be the objective function. I'll set this for the objective function, which is this cell. Then minimum value for the changing variables, I considered the one in the yellow highlight. Then for the constraints, as mentioned, the first one should the demand. This one is should be the demand should be equal to 0. The demand should be equal to 0. Then next is This one is the fixed cost. Sorry. This one is that the supply should be greater than or equal to 0. The third constraint is particular with the binary output, or if it is 1 or 0 if the plant is operational. And the last one is this one, which states that the numbers or the value should be greater than 0 or should be in integer. So solving for the I'll just change.
Naka-double cell ata, ma'am, yung objective function.
Oh, sorry. Thank you. So with that, the minimum cost for this transport capacitated plant would be 23,751. So that's for plant capacity.
Wait. Why the African side is exceeds the capacity constraint?
Sorry, sir.
The Africa, the B24.
D24.
B.
B24.
Yeah, Bravo. Yeah. Can you see again the formula? But
This
it's
one.
7. Yeah. Can you click that one? It's 7. Excess capacity. So
This
you're
is
only
10 minus 7. It's
what is it? 20 17. 20 minus 17.
yes, sir.
Oh, so it means that they still have 3 capacity which is not yet being
Yes,
used.
sir.
Okay. The one that is not allowed is less than 0, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
So the last constraint states that the value should be positive, or so there's no negative.
Which one? Which
The-
constraint?
This the last one, sir. So there's a non-negative constraint for this one, sir. So 0 to 1, sir.
Wait. I don't think that's the meaning of that one. It should be the second, the constraint in the middle, that part.
Okay, sir. For the constraint in
So
the middle, it's, I think, is it the capacity multiplied by
yeah. So the constraint that you talk about from that discuss B19 until B24 is the one that in the middle. So
okay, sir.
what does it actually means is that the demand that served by those particular facility should not be equal, should be less than equal. If it's your case like this, if you put equal there, then it means that you need to have like some dummy data
Less than or
to
equal
absorb.
to.
Yeah, so that one should be less than equal K multiplied by yi. It means that if you want to use this particular facility, the capacity of that particular facility that you are going to use should be larger than equal, larger or equal to the demand that that needs the demand on that particular facility. Let's say this one. The facility that you are using to serve Africa is the second facility, right? The one that have high capacity, which the fixed cost is 6,000. So the demand that go through those particular facility should be less than equal to 20.
Yes.
Okay, so that one will be the middle constraint. And regarding the demand being met, so can you go down below? This one, you see that all unmet demand is 0. this will is represent the constraint, the first constraint, that one.
Yes.
Sum xij equals dj. That one is this one, the unmet demand constraint. Okay, I guess like I just like try to uh, a little bit suggest on your calculation and explanation. So that's nothing to worry about.
Thank you, sir.
So now it's all correct. Yeah, you can continue your presentation.
So I'll share my PowerPoint presentation.
Yeah, go back to the present PPT.
So for phase 3, we're in, you select a set of desirable potential site. So phase 3 is selecting a set of desirable potential sites. This includes hard infrastructure such as facilities and warehouses, availability of suppliers, and transportation. So on the other hand, soft infrastructures may include the availability of skilled personnel, community receptivity to the business. So there's also a mathematical formula for this one, wherein you can identify the distance or the exact points where to locate the potential site. So using gravity location model, so both this one, so this in this model, sorry, the gravity location model, it both market and supply resources are considered in to identify the distance of the point. So it's like this formula is the distance formula. So this is the example. So the problem here is to minimize the total cost in the supply chain. So I'll show again my Excel file. So in this one, the identified the source location and its market or market location. The transportation cost for each resource and market is identified, as well as the quantity needed by the market and the supplied source. So this is the facility location. So this will be the coordinates as the X and Y location. So first, as mentioned, we need to identify the distance of this one. So to identify the distance, the formula given was the square root of this x value minus this one squared. So I have to put plus the y values, which is this one. So this one, I'll just drag everything to identify the distance. So since this is all the distance formula or the distance values is already identified, we now then go to the objective function, which is just the summation, the sum product of the distance, that is the different distances, the transportation cost, and the quantity needed to be transported. Then to solve this one, so the objective function is this one. We should minimize the cost. So to solve, so based from the solver, Excel solver, the X and Y values, it determines or defines the point of the coordinates that will generate the minimal cost of 1.265. So that's how you calculate or to identify which location should be used using the gravity model.
Very good. Very good.
Going back to my PowerPoint
Yeah.
presentation.
No worries.
So that's for phase 3. Then for phase 4, so location choices. So the last phase or the location choices deals with maximizing the expected profit based on market, logistics, and other costs. So an example of this is when locating plants and warehouses simultaneously. This means that multiple suppliers can simultaneously be located in different plants and warehouses that will supply different markets. So this is the graphical representation of locating plants and warehouses simultaneously. So that's it, sir, for my report
Yeah.
for the network.
I think it's very good you provide the example using Excel, including solving it, and even show it real time to us. I mean, like, I really appreciate it. So I'm wondering, have you ever studied this one before, or this is like your first attempt to study about network design?
We already, I think we already have that kind, we have transportation and logistics cost. We already used Excel service.
I
So we
see.
have the
Yeah,
cost for
yeah,
the transportation. Yes, sir.
I see. I see. Is there any? Okay, I'll just stop the recording.